CFR Network, CFR News, good day, good night, all. Shalom, balance, niha, bonjour, hola, all of the universal greetings. Glad to be here. Trust everybody is well. Thank yourself for surviving another year. We're in the growing year of 2022. I have a very, very special guest with me today, Isabelle Miller, content creator, model, extraordinaire, and everything else in between. Welcome to the broadcast. How are we doing?
I am doing fantastic, and I hope the same for you too.
Thank you. Yes, a little cold, but outside of that, I am here and looking forward to what 2022 has in store for all of us.
That is fantastic. It's also pretty cloudy here in LA, so I'm going to have to delay my shoot a little bit since I like the natural light.
Definitely, definitely. So you're in sunny LA at the moment. Well, cloudy LA, I should say. Is that where you normally reside?
Yes, it is.
Okay, okay. So let's start off with the zombie apocalypse, as I've dubbed it. We've gone through 2 years of some interesting, tumultuous times. How have you been able to navigate and stay sane and safe throughout this period?
That is a very good question. And to answer it my best way possible, the best way I've been able to stay sane and safe during these crazy times is to honestly not pay attention to it. Some people say, oh no, you shouldn't, dismiss this thing that's going on right now, and et cetera, et cetera. But at the end of the day, I only have one life. Everything that's happening right now is way beyond my control, and I cannot just sit in a cave hoping things get better, that the politicians are going to do something, that the virus is going to go away. There's nothing I can do about it. So I just live my life.
Excellent answer. I like it. I mean, as you say, we can only control what's within our own realm. Outside of that, it's down to the powers that, in my opinion, should have never have been to, put these policies and things in place. But yeah, I'm glad. I've seen you've been doing a lot of traveling.
Yes.
How has the travel experience been for you now in this new sort of wave of all of these additional protocols? Have you found it pretty easy, or has it been challenging?
That's a very good question. A lot of it depends on the location you're going to. I found overall traveling within Europe, most European countries are pretty easy to travel to. South America as well. Some countries in the Caribbean and the Middle East were a little dicier, but otherwise it was easy to do overall. And to add on top, I am fully vaccinated, so that did make it a bit easier for me. But if one is not vaccinated, it's still possible to do whatever you want to do.
Thank you for that. I mean, I'm one of the unvaxxed. It seems that there's two classifications of people at the moment. There's not even black, white, and anything else. It's just vaxxed and unvaxxed. So if you're saying it's still possible to be able to do, the type of traveling that you've been doing,
Yeah.
that is positive, because I've missed out on quite a bit of traveling since this, because of all of the stipulations. And obviously with the UK, you fly out of the UK to another destination, and before it's time to come back, the rules have changed.
I know. Well, that's a crappy thing about it too, as the rules change all the time. Because one day I want to go to Amsterdam, and no, Americans have to quarantine, and it's very dicey sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. I think you would have definitely enjoyed your time in Amsterdam. It's a very interesting place. Very interesting place.
I like it a lot. I haven't been there in quite a few years, but otherwise, hopefully this summer will be possible.
Same here. My plan is to go probably between April to sort of June, around that sort of period. I've got a beautiful little penthouse sort of place I always stay when I go there, not too far from the train station. So
That-
it's in very close proximity to all of the nightlife.
Mhm.
Always an interesting time in Amsterdam. I find it quite interesting. I don't know if you've experienced this when you've gone out at night, seeing
Mhm.
like mother and father with their children like wandering around the red light district. Have you seen anything like that?
That's a very good question. I don't know why, but I never went to the red light district when I was there.
You didn't.
No, I didn't because I thought it was just to be kind of boring. I had better see than just a
Yes.
red light district because you know what to expect in the red light district. You're going to see sex workers inside the windows, a bunch
Yeah.
of red, a bunch of sex stuff, and it's like, you know what? I'd rather do something else.
It's taken the real culture of Amsterdam. Look at the tulips, the clogs, the fine dining, the architecture, the canals.
That's a very good question. I just love walking around the city. I did love the architecture, the canals and the beauty of the city. But overall, it's the feel of it. The people were really cool and easygoing. There wasn't that much friction. Some of the food was pretty good too. And yeah, I just love being there.
Yeah, definitely a place I would recommend for a metropolitan weekend break. I don't think I could do more than a week there though, unless I was traveling out into some of the suburbs and stuff and seeing some of the countryside. I don't think I could do like a full 7 days in central Amstel. But yeah, the traveling bug, I cannot wait to get back onto a plane and experience some different cultures, some different foods, use different currencies.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to that this year. I'm very much looking forward to that. Trustfully, we can get back to the usual flight regime where I'm going at least 3 times, getting on a plane for this year. Most high willing, it will be
Yeah.
it will take place. So yeah, very much looking forward to that. Um, let's let's start off with you have a as we spoke previously, you have a very interesting accent. Where was you born and raised?
Okay, so that's one of the first questions anybody asks me, which is amazing. And my accent is originally from West Africa. So I was born in Senegal, but my family is originally from Togo, which is a smaller country that's in West Africa as well. And my native language is French actually, but I was raised in New York and now I live in Los Angeles. So I have a mix of an American and French African accent.
New York, New York, the state so great they named it twice. What? How do you find the differences between the hustle and bustle of New York and LA?
That's an amazing question. So I just love Los Angeles much more than New York because I just love the quality of life here. It feels like here you have more of a choice. If you love the hustle and bustle, you know where to stay. You stay somewhere around West Hollywood or Santa Monica or downtown LA. If you love the noise, if you just love the life and everything. But then if you don't, you can just go elsewhere. You can go to OC or you can go to Brentwood, somewhere like that. New York City, you don't have much of a choice. It's like in Manhattan, unless you want to go into the small suburb in Staten Island or Brooklyn, which doesn't seem very appealing to me. It's just you're always in that hustle and bustle and noise and crappy weather and dirty streets and everything. So there are so many things that I love about New York, but there's a lot of things too that I honestly do not miss. I rarely visit at this point, especially since COVID, where you can basically work anywhere in the world. I'm like, why in the world would I just go to New York City?
Mm.
I don't care for it. So I do like Los Angeles a little bit more, or a lot more. But to be quite honest as well, the quality of life in Los Angeles has declined a little bit, especially since COVID and the crime rates and everything. But that has been in almost every major city in the US. And I don't think it's going to be forever because, for example, they started cleaning up Venice Beach. So it's not as crazy as it used to be. So I'm pretty optimistic on that point because there's very few cities in the US where LA just is that can compete with Los Angeles. I think a big one right now is Miami. But honestly, I've tried it and I just cannot, for the life of me, live in Miami. I try, it's just not happening.
What was the is it just the pace of life? Is it the topography of the, like, what's the differences? And obviously I know it's West Coast versus East Coast, but what is the major difference between Miami and LA?
I honestly, because I grew up in New York, Miami is just too East Coast for me. It just reminds me of the East Coast and New York too much. Because basically that's it. It's a bunch of people that get tired of New York that move back to Miami. So you still have to deal with the crappy attitudes, the bad moods, and just it doesn't feel as welcoming as Los Angeles for me personally. And also there's not nearly as much to do. And also the topography is pretty flat. It's like, okay, you have the beach. The beaches are really nice because the water is warmer. You're not freezing right now just by dipping your toe into it. The plus.
Yes.
And as well as what was I even going to say? Yes, it's the humidity just sucks. So humidity sucks. The rain and the thunderstorm is also something I can totally live without for most of the time. And then Los Angeles doesn't, lately it has had a lot of rain, but usually it's not that way. It's pretty dry. And I just love dry weather a lot more than rainy and humid.
And it's obviously it's better for your hair as well, being in a non-humid environment, isn't it?
Yeah, yes, you're 100% right about it. And just to add on top of it, is there's also the business aspect of it. Of course, Los Angeles is like the capital of entertainment in the US, if not the world. And it's just so much easier for me to work here than move all the way to Miami. And then I'm going to have to schedule meetings and schedule collaborations all the way to LA and then fly all the way there again. It's just not worth it.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine. It's good that you've got the option, I mean, some people don't have the option to go state to state and relocate and stuff. So I'm happy that you're in a space where you have so many options to say, okay, well, if I wanted to go to live in Miami, I could. I've tried it, and I like where I am in LA.
Yes, 100%. And yes, you're absolutely right. Even with the situation right now changing a little bit with COVID and as a whole working from home thing, it's much easier now than it used to be. But otherwise, I am pretty grateful for my situation and the flexibility that I have.
Mhm.
And yeah, I'm pretty happy about it.
Excellent, excellent. What about going back to more of before you came well, actually, what age did you actually get to move from Senegal to New York? Was that pretty early age?
Yes, I was roughly between 13 and 14 years old.
Well, you've had the opportunity, so you remember home then. You remember home life versus.
Yeah. And I have a pretty like good memory when it comes to my childhood and everything, which I'm really surprised sometimes because I remember some stories and events and details that I'm like, wait, I was literally 5 years old. How come I still remember this?
This is it, and it's those memories that form those good memories that form as a youngster, which you can draw on as an adult, and I was there at that age, and look where I am now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Great.
So being in New York and growing up as a teenager and stuff, being obviously not native,
Yeah.
how was your interaction with the locals, should we say? Did they embrace you, especially with your accent as well, which you've still got?
That's an amazing question. And to my great surprise, I found America to be a lot more embracing than West Africa, actually. Because to tell you the full story, while I was born in Senegal, roughly when I was 3 years old, my family moved to the Ivory Coast, which is called Côte d'Ivoire now. And from there, because there used to be a political crisis, we had to move back to Senegal.
Mhm.
So moving back to Senegal was kind of a culture shock for me, even though it's another West African country. The cultures are a bit different. And I had an accent there, and I couldn't speak the local language that was Wolof at the time. Towards the end of my stays there, I could understand it more and stay and converse a tiny little bit. But still, it was really hard because then the people would make fun of you for your accent. They'd be like, "Oh, you're from the Ivory Coast, whatever." And it was just there. And it's like, we're all Africans here. Why are you being a dick? And it's whatever. People are what they are.
Mhm.
But New York was just so much different. First of all, people, when you come here, they're like, "Oh my gosh, welcome. You're from Africa. That's so cool. I've never been there. How was it there? How was it growing up there?" And it's like, people are so much more welcoming here. Of course, you have a few dickheads who are like, haha, your accent is funny. And to be very honest, most of these people are people who are from, for example, Central America, like El Salvador or whatever. It's like, you kind of have an accent too, so I don't know why you're speaking.
Good points.
Actual Native Americans is like, the worst that they'll do is like, "Oh, sorry, can you repeat that a bit? I didn't get it." But they'll never go out of their way to make fun of my accent, make fun of my origins, because it's very frowned upon here. There's actually ramifications, and it's very like, it is not a really good thing to go out of your way and make fun of somebody who's from a different country. Whereas somewhere in West Africa, where it's like, nobody cares really. People will kind of frown upon it, but it's like, just get over it.
Yeah. So what was your native tongue in Senegal?
I always spoke French, which is my native tongue. I did not really learn any African languages that much.
Okay.
My parents are from different countries and didn't have an African language in common. But the native language in one of the native languages that is very popular in Senegal is Wolof. Almost everybody speaks it there, and almost like everything's there. It's in Wolof, like the news, the TV shows, and everything. Whereas in the Ivory Coast, everything was more in French because I guess there just wasn't as much of a main language that was as spread out as Wolof, for example, in Senegal. So it was so much easier for me to communicate there because everybody in school, all my friends, all my circles, even the shows on TV were in French. It was easy to communicate. Whereas Senegal was a bit more different and it was very hard to adjust to.
I can imagine. I can imagine. Wow. So it's refreshing to hear that you was welcomed with open arms of sorts, when you got to New York and stuff. But as we know, New York is a melting pot of so many different cultures.
It's so true.
Yeah. Did you have a favorite sort of area?
Oh, a very good question. So a favorite area in New York City, I just love Manhattan, going down to Soho and downtown. Was a West Village was amazing as well.
Yeah.
Although I used to the Upper East Side, I think it was better for me residentially to live on the Upper East Side versus like the East Village, where it would be way too crazy for me. It was
Yeah, I've heard some stories about East Village.
oh yeah. But honestly, the food in the East Village is amazing. Every time, like the most trendy, the most amazing restaurants that I always forget the name of are in the East Village. I remember one time I went to this place that had this kind of donut ice creams that they spread around on Instagram that go viral, like all kind of foods that go viral on Instagram. You can find it in the East Village for the most part.
Wow. So it's like a culinary sort of explosion express down in the East Village.
Yes, I think so. I mean, now I haven't been there for quite a bit, so I don't know if it changed that much. But the last time I was in the East Village, I was more on a sushi bench kind of thing, where I'll just go at these omakase restaurants after another omakase restaurant. That's just what I was into at that time.
So what's staying on the foods topic? What are some of your favorite cuisines?
Honestly, I just love Ethiopian cuisine lately. I've been eating it almost like not every day. That'll be a little much, but almost every. And yes, I think it varies a lot. It's like one week or 1 month, or maybe during a 3 month, 6 months period, I'll already be to Vietnamese food, and then I'll be into Korean food, then I'll be into Japanese food, and I'll be into, I don't know, steaks rarely. I mean, it's nice here and there, but I was never on like, oh my gosh, I'm just going to eat steak for like 3 months or anything like that. And yeah, I do love ethnic food a lot. Anything that is super flavorful and spicy is something that I love.
Yeah, you've obviously visited the Caribbean or Caribbean as we call it.
Yes, I have.
How did you find the food there, and what were some of your favorite dishes?
Okay, so that is a difficult question because I don't think I really had the opportunity to experience great and authentic Caribbean food that
Oh,
much because I think some of the few countries I've been in the Caribbean were Saint Bart's and Saint Lucia. So Saint Bart's is pretty much French, so there's not that much of a Caribbean influence there. And Saint Lucia,
still
just
has the French sort of Creole
yeah,
influence there.
surprised by. I'm like, okay, this is what's going on here.
Definitely. It's a beautiful place. I mean, I haven't been back
Eh,
to St. Lucia in a while, but that is
Are you,
pardon?
are you from Saint Lucia?
No, my heritage is Montserrat and Saint Kitts.
Oh wow, those are like very rare
They're
people.
very small islands on the Lesser Antilles, more towards like South America and stuff.
Yes, yes. I've rarely met anybody from Montserrat or St. Kitts, so that's a plus.
You've popped your cherry there then now.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Going
Um,
food thing. The food in St. Lucia, maybe it was related to the pandemic or anything like that, but I don't think I really had the opportunity to experience something that's outstanding.
I, I I might get slated for this, but when I was there a number of years, this is obviously pre-pandemic,
Mhm.
um, I didn't really think much of the cuisine. If I'm honest, I didn't think it was. Yeah, and I tried some local stuff, and I tried the upmarket stuff, and it was okay. It was more French inspired. It wasn't. Yeah, it was quite bland.
It's French inspired because that would honestly be kind of an insult to French cuisine, which is amazing. Because even in Saint Barth, it's 100% French inspired, but it's still really good.
Mhm.
Like anywhere, actual French food is really good. But Saint Lucia, I just didn't see it there. Honestly, I think Saint Lucia was more of a British cuisine kind of place.
Yes, I would agree. I would 100% agree, but at the same time, not even an authentic British cuisine because I mean, Britain isn't the most culinary best place, but you've been here
Uh,
and you have tasted, what can be created. So, yeah, it's a bit
yeah.
of a weird one. It's definitely a weird one. I think you will definitely enjoy the cuisine when you go to Jamaica. Um,
Yes, yes, for sure.
Barbados as well. St.
No,
Kitts, I would say 100%, even Montserrat. I think the further down you go, you will get more of an authentic kind of um, Caribbean sort of mix with the spices. You'll really enjoy it. I know you will.
well, yeah, most Caribbean food that I've enjoyed is in the US. And honestly, by far my favorite Caribbean food I will say is Haitian food. It was really good.
Wow, okay. And again, like the Francais again with that. There's a theme there. There's a theme. The
There's a
quality.
bit.
Um, let's talk a little bit about your education wise, like in school, what was some of the subject matters and some of the things that excited you, which you was interested in at when you were going through your education period?
That's a very good question. So I was very, very good at art. And I actually made a portfolio, like an art portfolio to get into college. So that was one of my top subjects by far. And another subject I was really good at was history. So in the US, you have to AP classes and whatever. So it's
Hmm.
great to get college credits from it. And thankfully, I was able to get college credits from those classes. So history, I was relatively good at it. It's a lot of rote memorization, which I can be good at sometimes. And also, I'm pretty good at remembering facts and actually like history because I read history books sometimes. Or now I watch more history documentaries, just for pleasure as well. Geometry is also one of the things that I like a lot because part of me like logical problems and make putting things together. I used to like physics a tiny little bit, but the problem with physics is like a lot of it depends on the teachers, the time you have to study and all that. So I didn't get that deep into it. So those are where, yeah, my main subject would have been like art and history, and as well as economics.
Wow. So
Yeah,
you've hitting on so many different areas. You've got a creative side, obviously in reference to the photography and the arts and all that kind of stuff. And then geometry, geometry, did you say as well?
yeah, geometry.
And logical mindsets,
Yeah.
logical.
So
That
people
is,
use our left brain,
mm,
the right, and I'm both.
which is a rarity, especially, well, yeah, a rarity. I don't speak to many people who have that. They're generally, the majority of people I speak to are very much creatives, and that's generally the creative and maybe analytical as well. Um,
Yeah.
but we don't get the left right paradigm at the same time. That's very interesting. Have you looked into? Did you look at sociology and psychology and that kind of stuff?
Oh yeah, I've looked into it as well. But my biggest problem with sociology and psychology is a bit too speculative for me. It's like it's great, but at the same time, it's not really a hard science, where
Yes.
it's very hard to quantify humans in beings in the first place. Kind of like economics. But at least with economics, you have more of a like modeling possibility with it, more numbers to work with. And sociology and psychology, you work with the human minds. Think about it, how sociology and psychology was 50 to 60 to even 80 years ago, completely different than what it is today.
Completely, yes, 100%. And it is forever changing and
Yeah.
advancing, quote
Mhm.
unquote. So I'll use that in air
Yeah.
quotes, because we all, as human beings, as imperfect human beings, as mankind, we're
Yeah.
so different.
We are very different. And I think so much of our environments also shape us because I believe at the end of the day, human beings are going to do what seems the most advantageous to them. It's not like, I don't think we're that much set in stone when it comes to, for example, families, to, for example, marriage, or even like I don't know, nutrition or anything like that, because a lot of it is going to depend on of okay, I'm in this place and time and frame. What is going to be the most advantageous to me right now? What is it going to make me feel accepted and successful in my time period? And that changes a lot because one day people realize that some things work, and the next day they realize that some things do not work. So they just move along with that.
And that's the wonders of humanity, is that there's so many different options and choices, and there's so many good examples of like, wow, I can see so many good qualities in what that person's doing. I'm gonna borrow some of that and implement it in my life. And then we've got people who are literally whiteboards or blackboards showing us what not to do.
Exactly. And I mean, there's always going to be those kind of people that feel like, okay, for things to work, we have to control them and do X, Y, Z, which honestly, I don't blame them because it does work in the short term. But I think the human mind as well doesn't want to be told what to do forever. Sooner or later, they're going to get sick and tired of it. They're like, hey, you know what? I'm tired of that. This is not really feeling really good, which is what you saw in the US during the 50s, because it was very rigid. This is where you go to school. This is where you go after this is what you do after college. This is what you do after high school. You get married, you get your house and your kids, and that's it. You go to church and voila. But for how long is that going to work? People get bored. People realize, well, this is clearly not doing for me. This is not giving me the benefits that I was promised. And now you see that again with like the colleges and people not really getting to jobs that they want to get. The 9-to-5 jobs are not working. That law firm or, you know, investment banking establishments are working for is not really giving them what they wanted in the first place. And that was what was promoted left and right 30 years ago, even 30 to 40 years ago. It's like, yeah, get your college degree, go work for this law firm, and get your kids and your wife, and you're going to live happily ever after. And those same formulas, people realize this formula doesn't work for me. Let me find something else.
And that's what we do. We try and, as they say, get in where you fit in. But you have so many people who just want to stay in that mold, and because we've been propagated as you know, children to young adults, youth to manhood and womanhood, what you do is you go through this education system, and for some people it's the miseducation system, and for some people it's even the fooling system, because all they're taught to do is to regurgitate information and be able to do it on command, and that gives them an A+ or whatever grade. But they don't know how to critically think. They don't know how to apply the information that they've learned and manifest it in the 3-dimensional realm. That's the difference between creating a fully functioning human versus a worker bee.
Exactly. Some people are comfortable in that worker bee mentality, because to be, you know, a fully critical human and everything has a lot of responsibilities, because you are inundated with choices, and there are upsides and there's downsides, and you have to make your own calculation. What are going to be my upsides? What are going to be my downsides? And when you add external pressures like financial pressures, health pressures, societal pressures, some people cannot survive with it mentally or even physically. So they go right ahead and follow formulas and hope for the best, which I don't blame them for it.
Yes, yeah, I agree. I agree. What did you initially growing up, what sort of spiritual system did you grow up in? And as the second part B to that question, what spiritual system do you sort of practice now?
That's a very good question. So I don't think I've ever been sincerely a spiritual person ever. I was raised Catholic, but even then, even as, I don't know, 4-year-old, I'm like, is this even real? So I was like, kind of like the black sheep, who's like, I don't believe any of this, or even the supernatural. People are like, well, like, especially during the African culture, so witches and the witchcraft and, you know, spells and all that stuff. I'm like, this is absurd. And people are like, well, don't say that, because, you know, this is going to happen to you or whatever. And I'm like, well, I still don't believe in it. And now I'm more of I grew further to be more, you know, entrenched in my lack of spirituality in the concrete terms. And I identify now more of as an atheist / agnostic, more of as an agnostic, because I cannot determine for 100% if there's a deity or no deity, or what is perceived as a deity in the first place.
I am so impressed in the way you answered that question, and I'm so happy that you have led or lean more from the atheist side to the agnostic side. I think that shows a lot of thinking, personal, critical thinking as well, because it is, you know, in regards to a deity or multiple deities, depending on what religious sort of system you follow, it can be hard to put faith into something that cannot be seen, touched, or felt. But at the
That is,
same time, we can't see air, can we? We can't touch air, but it's
but
all
they quantify it, and it is pretty proven, or else we wouldn't accept.
exactly. Well, no, in that respect, of course, it is quantifiable. Yes, indeed. But where does that air come from? This is where we get to where, as you're saying, you're leaning more to the agnostic side. Like, what there's potentially something, but I cannot quantify it and put a label onto it.
That is very true, and I think that's where the agnostic side comes to. It's like a lot of it is like human beings are too focused on giving something meaning, giving something labels. It's like, well, there has to be something, there has to be something, there has to be this, there has to be that. And we are not in the position to know at 100% if there is something, at least in my opinion.
Yes, I would agree. I would agree. The proof is once we transition from this three-dimensional realm, and if we look at, if we use the terminology dimensions, so we're in the third dimension now, we then should go into the fourth dimension, fifth dimension. So using that logic and knowing that energy cannot can only dissipate, it cannot be destroyed. We are energy beings.
Yes.
So this is not the end. This is clearly not the end.
That's a possibility, but then again, there's also the definition and quantification of it, of what does it mean to not be the end, and we can go on and on about it.
There's been many debates and conversations and books written on that subject matter, most definitely. But it's so interesting, and it's a question that I don't think will ever be answered. There's questions that you just don't have an answer to, and sometimes there's questions that you just don't need an answer. You've just got to do what is you've got to find your purpose ultimately. What is your purpose in life?
In the first place, that's a good question.
Have you found your purpose, Isabelle?
Maybe not, because I don't attach myself to concrete definitions or concrete rules of purpose, that I should find a purpose, that I should do this, that I should do that. I just have kind of a very simplistic outlook on life. It's like, is this something that I genuinely want to do? Is this something that is true for me? So I move forward in that realm, because a lot of externalities can cloud our clarity of thinking about, oh, well, this is what I want to do. This is who I am. This is who I am not. And that might not be necessarily true. So I just live in a space of awareness. That's the best way.
No, I totally understand. I totally understand. And living within that moment, ultimately making plans for the future, short term, long term, etc. But living within that moment and embracing that moment ultimately.
Yes. So overall, yeah, making some plans for the future, but leaving enough room to the future, because the future is still very much undefined at this point. Because imagine 5 years ago, you wanted to be a doctor, but then you found out about crypto and NFTs, and that blew your world completely. So that's why I always believe leaving some room to the future, because you never know what's going to happen.
100%, 100%. And everything in life is subject to change. Everything.
Very true.
We've got to be comfortable in that. I mean, I don't like change necessarily. I like routine. I think, being a part of humanity, we all like routine. We are routine-based beings. But I understand and embrace the fact that things are going to change. It's a hard thing to actually embrace, but once you get to that point, I think you then start to cross that bridge, and you don't have so many of these obstacles, because when you just stuck rigid, like, I'm not doing anything but this, that's when we fall into the problems.
Yeah, I believe that as well.
Yeah. So how did you get into the influencing content creation and the modeling? I mean, you're clearly a very attractive young lady.
Mhm.
Is this something that sort of was always on your mind, or could you unpack that a little bit?
That's a very good question. So roughly, I would say 3 to 4 years ago, I really got into like photography. I had put some friends that were photographers, and I always just loved their work. And I love the subjects, the people in front of the cameras, the ways they captured it and everything. And I decided that, why not me? Why not try this and see where it's going to take me? And back then it was just a bit more difficult to like grow on Instagram, at least for me, because you need all these professional pictures and I only had so much. So I tried that and I wasn't very successful at it. Instagram wise, it was I would ask some photographers to shoot me and whatever, and they would kind of like be like, oh, whatever. But then I went on Twitter instead, and it was so much easier for me to grow from that standpoint. And my work started evolving on it. And after a while, my photographer friend decided that, hey, you can actually make money off of that content and go right ahead. And why not create an OnlyFans where you post the essential pictures on this page? So I was like, okay, let me try it. I was a bit skeptical, but then I decided to do it. And after a while, it started growing. And once the pandemic hit, that's where I realized, wait, there's a whole ecosystem on this OnlyFans thing where people create content and monetize it. And now there's a much bigger marketplace on it. So you know what? I'm actually going to take this more seriously and capitalize on that moment because I see a lot of growth in it. And that's just where it went. Then people started coming to me to collaborate. And I feel like that's really where my brand started to grow along.
So a lot of hard work, a lot of hours behind the camera. So, are you, from what I gather, you're, I guess, are you a part of the creation of the scene in regards to the photography element of it and the staging of it?
Oh, yes, yes. I always pick the location, I pick the outfits. Also, welcome input from my photographers. But other than that, I'm the main one creating it.
Excellent, excellent. And from a health and fitness standpoint, obviously, we do have a mixture of beautiful women upon Instagram. Some have had enhancements, some are
Mm.
all natural. Where do you fall in that line?
100%, I fall into the line of some enhancements. I did have some plastic surgery, but there's a lot of it that I didn't get either. Like, for example, people ask if my butt is all natural, and yes, it is. My
Well,
butt is
well,
still.
well, well, let's stop there, Isabel, for one moment. We can see that that's natural. I don't know.
Oh, you'll be surprised. I mean, I don't blame them either.
um, and your health and fitness regime, what does that sort of look like?
That's very true. And to be fairly honest with you, I used to be a lot more on top of my health and fitness regime pre-pandemic. Like I used to be kind of obsessed with it. It's like, oh, I have to eat this and eat that and do all these things. And now I got burnt out, which is maybe not, which is neutral right now from that standpoint. But I also think it's a good thing because it's been a goal of me to accept myself however I look. And it's been kind of an achievement for me mentally to look at myself in the mirror, being X amount of pounds heavier, whatever you want to call it, and still love myself, love the way I look, and love the way I feel. But on the other standpoint, I don't want to be in my 40s or 50s and kind of have stupid health problems. So I am moving into a space of awareness to see what is working, what is not working, to not be in extreme spaces of extreme deficiency and extreme regimens, but also not in a space of extreme gratification and excess.
So ultimately, we're looking at balance in that area.
That is true. And it is a journey. It is a journey. I'm still working with it. And I've, in my mind right now, decided I am going to go on that journey and discover what is it that works for me and to not listen to the all, I mean, that's the thing too about the fitness and diet industry. Everybody is telling you something different. You listen to one person to like, oh my goodness, carbs and sugar is the devil. Don't eat that at all, or else you're going to die. The next time, some vegan person is going to be like, oh my gosh, you're not eating a plant-based diet. You're eating dairy. You're eating meat. You are going to die. So there's so all these extremes, and then there's going to be the person who does a keto is like, don't eat oranges, don't eat bananas, and somebody else is going to tell you don't eat strawberries, or it's always something crazy, or don't eat things. And I just want to get over that craziness. But then again, you have people who are like, weigh your food, track your macros, do this, do that, run for 2 hours every day. And it's like, is that the life I want to live? Ultimately, I want to live a life I want to live. I don't want to get sick and tired of people telling me, oh, you should do this for nutrition, you shouldn't do that, and et cetera, et cetera. And it is a pretty muddy water to navigate in general. And also, I have to look at my schedule. I have to look at the way I work and the way I live. And sometimes I don't have the time to go to the gym every single day. And that is a reality. And other than that, I don't want to force myself to go to the gym, because then I'm going to hate it. And that's what has happened. And it's going to take a lot more time to get me back there. So it's a lot of elements to navigate.
Definitely. I mean, you hit on two things there. Or one thing specifically I want to talk on it would be the pounds thing, stepping on the scale and being comfortable with what you see in the mirror. Specifically on a women's standpoint, not necessarily men, but for women, it's not about weighing 130 pounds or 110. It's not about that. It's about how do you look and how do you feel?
That is very true.
Being comfortable in your skin
is very important.
Definitely. How tall are you, Isabel?
I'm only 5'1". I'm tiny.
That's the perfect height. Nothing higher than 5'3". Well, okay. And what do we have in store for the Gregorian year of 2022? What sort of plans have you got in place?
That's a very good question. And I like how you said the Gregorian year of 2022, because in the Persian calendar, it's completely different. But other than that, in 2022, I'm definitely going to publish a lot more video content, a lot more lifestyle content, a lot more content that people really get to see me in multiple facets and dimensions versus static images on Instagram, Twitter, or even OnlyFans. I am also going to publish some travel content, but a lot of it is going to be more lifestyle related, to see who is Isabelle, what does she do, how does she react, and going further from that.
I'm definitely looking forward to the travel vlogs, because you do travel quite extensively, and I think you can bring some very good value and content if done the right way, and I know you will do it the right way. I think that's going to be a very good market for you to get into, the travel vlogs sort of side, 100%.
Exactly, and it's also that space where I'm like, okay, there's so many ways to create travel content, but then again, it's something that I want to stand out. So far, the travel content has been very basic, but also I suppose the uncensored version on OnlyFans, which is nice. A lot of it is very touristic and fun and kind of like pretty places, but part of me also feels like everybody and their grandmother is doing it as well. So one type of travel content that I just love looking at, for example, on YouTube, is that channel. I think his name is Andrew Binsky, and the Indigo Travelers. Their travel content is so engaging, and you say it was local, it's very cultural and everything. And that's something I would love to do. But realistically speaking, I am a single, quote unquote, beautiful woman. If that's what people want to call it, that's fine. And security wise, it's a bit dicier, to be quite honest. So to be a single female traveler, I have to look at things a bit differently and still enjoy my times there.
Security is a must. And as you've highlighted all of the key things Yes, yes, I would 100% agree. That would be some excellent content, but as you say, being a lone traveler and that, yeah, that
Yeah,
can be
I want to
tricky.
make really good, adventurous, and engaging content beyond just, oh my gosh, she looks hot on camera.
Mm.
Yes, there's going to be that 100%, but also something more adventurous and engaging and fun and authentic at the same time. But I'm pretty sure the security aspect can be decided upon. I just need a person who's just not afraid to go into, for example, the Congo, to go into Iraq, to go to Somalia, and be there with me and get things going.
Yeah, and I think that is achievable. It's just as you say, finding the right person um, to be able to facilitate those travels. Um, this has been a tremendous conversation. I think so many people are going to be blown away with your number one, your intelligence, and I
Yes.
think. And I also think that it's so refreshing to see and to have these kind of conversations and to totally shatter people's perceptions of they see you on Instagram and on Twitter and stuff, and they think you're one sort of way, and they have no idea. And trustfully, when they listen, they'll be thinking, "My gosh, okay, I need to think about how I judge people." you know.
That is very true, because you will be 100% surprised in many surprising ways, because there are so many inverses are that can happen. You see a thought leader, a public figure that says something really stupid, or you see, quote unquote, influencer that says something pretty insightful. So human beings at the end of the day are multidimensional, and that's just an idea that's easier to deal with for me personally.
Definitely. And this is one of the main reasons for CFR Network is to explore the human experience and to challenge the quote unquote social norms.
Mhm.
This is a beautiful time to be alive. It's a good time. It's also a tumultuous and scary time. Let's not get it twisted. But we need to have the eyes to see and ears to hear. Um, Embracing the moments,
Mhm.
living for today, but also making plans and not being selfish. One of the key things that you said growing up, um, and some of the experiences you've had, it's a case of taking those experiences and learning from them. Not allowing them to harbor and go to sort of a malignant sort of place. Embrace it, um, and grow. Growth and development is on the menu for everybody for the growing year of 2022.
Yes, that's true. And,
For
and for human growth in general.
Yes, agreed. We are very different, but we are all connected. We all have parts to play in this game, quote unquote, we call life. And as I say, I'm very much looking forward to what 2022 has in store for all of us. Um, what is the best way? Firstly, if people would like you, would you host events? Do you host events and that kind of stuff as well?
To be honest, not really. I've never been into like hosting events or anything like that. But if there's a good opportunity and your event is really interesting, I might consider it.
Oh,
So to contact me, you can email me at Isabelle Miller Official at gmail.com.
excellent. And I will make sure I put the link below in the description. Also, could you throw out all your social medias? How can people view your content, Mademoiselle?
Yes, so my social media on Instagram and Twitter is Isabelle Miller X, at Isabelle Miller X, and on OnlyFans is just at Isabelle Miller.
Excellent. As I say, I'll make sure I put links below in the description. I'm pretty sure 90% of the people listening, that will be listening, will know exactly who you are. The other ones will be like, Okay, let's have a look at the socials and let's engage with this young lady. Um, last two questions for you. Have you had fun with me today?
Of course, I had fun with you today. Come on, that was obvious.
I gotta ask, I gotta ask. Um, the very last one for you would be,
Mhm.
we've gone everywhere. Well, I think we've had a very good understanding, and overstanding of who you are. So please tell us who you are, but don't tell us your name.
Well, I am a regular person who makes fun things on the internet.
Short and sweet. Love it. Love it. Thank you so much for your time. Thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. As I say, go and check the content out. Like, comment, subscribe, share, and most definitely tell a friend to tell a friend to jump on the train.
Sounds good. Have fun today. Woo!